everyone. Good morning or good afternoon, where you're coming from. My name is Katrina, and I am here with Team Remo, and we want to thank you for attending our Tearing Down Logistical Barriers for Alumni Engagement Fireside Chat with ACE Virtual Events. Before I begin, if you guys can hear me, please just go ahead in the lower right-hand corner, hit that Remoji thumb up or hand clap to let me know I'm coming in okay. If you guys can find the general chat over to the right-hand side of the screen, say hello. Let me know where you're tuning in from today. I see that we have a few people, hashtag Team Canada here. So if you're part of Team Canada contingency, say hello. I am coming to you from not so sunny San Diego, California this morning. But I do want to welcome you guys. Just a couple pieces of housekeeping. If you wish at any time to see the screen larger, right directly below is a icon with a screen with three people in front of it. If you close that window, that will make your screen larger. If you keep it open, you'll get to see audience view and everybody's reactions throughout the event. If you have questions, we do have a Q&A feature all the way to the right-hand side. So if you have a question, please put it in the Q&A. So that way it does not get lost in the chat and we don't accidentally miss it. Kevin's coming in from just up the road in Los Angeles. I hope you guys are having better weather than we are down here because the sunshine tax that we're paying is just not giving dividends today. So. All right, everyone. So today we're going to be talking about the second in our series of tearing down logistical barriers for alumni engagement. Um, and this is focused on alumni, but a lot of these principles you can take and use if you need to engage members of an association who are not necessarily near you. If you're a nonprofit and you would like to expand your reach for fundraising. So a lot of these tips you can use external to the topic of alumni engagement. So if it does help, if you're watching the replay, we would love to hear back from you. Just making some notes in the comments that this was helpful for you, that'd be awesome. So before we begin, I'd like to introduce our co-panelists today from ACE. So we have Jonaed and we have Chris, who are with ACE Virtual Events. I'd like to welcome them up on stage. Hi, Chris. Hi, Jonaed. Can you guys just give me 2 quick seconds, just a hello and who you are and what you guys do?
Sure.
Yeah. I'll let Chris go first.
Okay. So, I'm Chris. I'm one of the co-founders over at ACE. We are kind of a wholesale type event agency, virtual event agency that focuses on Remo. We do tech support, floor plans, all kinds of stuff, but we've got an opportunity to work with some really cool educational industry institutions. So that's me.
Yeah, so I'm the partner at Ace Virtual Events. I focus a lot on like the talent development and the training and kind of getting like the employees up to speed. Just because we've hosted a lot of events, and some of these events have, we're recording like 50 to 80 people, and so just kind of managing the expectations, kind of just managing the workload. How do you manage 80 techs in an event to make sure everybody's kind of doing it? So that's kind of what I do, and it's been a very interesting and fun ride.
Awesome. And thank you guys so much for helping us with these series, because we do know that you have a lot of experience in the educational sector. So today we're going to talk about alumni engagement. And so the first question, the first topic I'm going to ask you, Jonaed, is mentorship. One of the big reasons that students choose a college is because of the alumni connections that they can build to help get them jobs after college in the field where they want to work. So mentorship is a really, really good way to engage alumni. We talk about the concept of wealth versus wisdom. So do you, as an alumni, feel connected to your university because you're giving something back financially, or because you're giving back your time and your energy and you're really making that personal connection? So let's talk a little bit about the mentorship aspect of things.
Yeah, so I've done a lot. I have a master's degree, so I participate in a lot of like alumni events and all that. And what I find is a lot of alumni events are just not engaging, right? If you have a Zoom call with like 40 people, how are you going to be engaged? And I personally keep in touch with a lot of people, so that's how I'm connected to a lot of things. But there was a couple studies done, and only 29% of college graduates strongly agree that college prepared them well for life outside of college. and they agree that if there is some sort of mentorship, it really changes how they view their colleges. So I'm actually involved in the alumni events for my high school, and what they actually do, and they're really big on mentorship. So what they actually do is something called like Project Accepted, and what they do is they take graduates from the high school, and they help them prepare for their college and stuff. And I found that my high school actually has done a way better job at keeping like that community and that mentorship than both my undergrad or my grad, because they're very big on community, and it's like it's something that it makes a big difference. And Chris and I have seen it firsthand, where you get these people who are the first time on the platform and they just love helping. They love being a part of something. And it's nice because some of these people are in other states, right? They're international, but now they can actually come back and they're like, hey, when's the next one? When's the next one? And I feel like a lot of colleges, they're really not doing that because there's so much change going on, right? There's so much, they're worried about the students now, they're worried about this. Whereas, like for high school, they have like a bunch of volunteers who kind of, so there's less friction. What we found is a lot of schools, they tend to, even choosing the technology takes so long, and they get so bogged down in the logistics and the planning that they just never end up doing anything.
Mhm. And we talk about, why is a virtual a great way to leverage this mentorship? So, if you're on the virtual plane in a meaningful, uh, facilitating meaningful discussions, you're most likely face to face. So, if you make that face to face connection, you make that personalization, it's not just a name on a paper that you kind of get sent. Do you think that is what helps spark that relationship or that tie or that connection?
Yeah, because what I've seen is alumni love helping out current people in their school. They know how it was as a student. They know, like, hey, I wish I did this, or I wish other people knew about these programs. And students in the school also want to see, like, hey, what's possible for alumni of this school, right? Because so many kids, they don't know really what's out there. So now they can see, oh, this person works at this company and has this title. I'd love to kind of connect with them. And the school is like the common connection. So, and alumni I've seen, like, they like kind of seeing where their other classmates have gone. So it's a way to get alumni and mentor and current students together, but it's a way to get alumni and alumni together to form that bond, to form that, like, hey, I'm tied to the school. And then what ends up happening is they have this connection. They're more likely to support the initiatives that the school does, right? Like we've talked about in the last presentation, how the average alumni giving rate is 8%. But when they feel a connection, when they feel some sort of tie at the which the top 10 colleges do a great job
Mhm,
at, that number goes up to 44%. And think about that. That's like 4 to 5 times more money that the school has to support these initiatives and do it more often.
mhm. Well, I think that's a great segue into the next point. So, Christopher, for you, when we talk about the aspects that Jonaed brought up, is that not only are the alumni feeling more connected with the students, but the alumni are now saying, "Oh, hey, I graduated with you," and they're making these reconnections. That's going to go towards building community. So, what are you seeing that are best practices or advantages of using a virtual space to continue to foster and build community?
Yeah, so I mean, I think that it's important to start kind of with a foundational understanding of what that connection really looks like to start, right? Is what the average is. So it's about 1 in 5 um, alumni actually have some kind of a reach back, some kind of a connection to their school, an emotional connection to their school. So that's fairly low, and there's an opportunity there because it's low. Using virtual gives us the opportunity to reach more people. I think one of the reasons that that number could potentially be in that 18% range has to do with the fact that a lot of the time when somebody goes to school, they end up leaving the area that they went to school in. They end up clear across the country, right, to find a good opportunity. And all of a sudden now they can't come back and support the school in the capacity that the school is preparing for them to do that task. So the opportunity with virtual is that somebody, so in your case, is in California, maybe they went to school in Moscow. Now they've got the opportunity to reach back at, exactly. So they've got the opportunity to reach back and start to communicate with them still, but they don't necessarily have to fly out there, spend 3-4 days in transit, as well as the 2 days on the ground to participate. Now they can jump on their computer and be there for an hour and get back to work and do what they need to do. I mean, I think that the important understanding is that the mentors and the types of people that you really want to engage with the school typically would be your higher level executives, your career professionals. You've got a few different categories that have a large time constraint on their schedule. Logistical barriers, for instance, travel, really get in the way of them participating. They may donate money, but they may not be able to mentor. So building that community through this, being able to, for instance, with Remo, you set up an event, 50 people show up, you've got an opportunity for those people to engage. They can trade little, insights as to what the school has helped them with. But in addition to that, they've also got the opportunity to bring in students and create a mentor opportunity there as well.
That is an actual real life scenario. I did go to school in Russia, so he knew that and threw that in for me. But I think also even people who are in the same city, especially once you reach that level of professional responsibility, even people in the same city. When I worked for San Diego State University, we had a hard time getting them to come to actual events because even it was in their backyard, it just wasn't at a good time. Where it's different. If you don't, like you said, if you don't have to fight traffic, if you don't have to, worry about childcare or parking or all these other balances of life, you can continue to build this social structure online. Because I know a lot of universities are really inundated with LMS, the learning management system. But where these LMSs are failing them is in the social construct and the social aspect. They're great for asynchronous. They are great for do at your own pace. They're okay for the lecture kind of series, but if you're doing these things on Zoom, like half of your class has everything turned off and they're just like this. So at least with an interactive, it's very important to find the right platform. So let's talk about some of the different flexible avenues that people have to engage, which are attractive for professionals, high-level executives, commuting students, international students. I mentioned a few things, but I know that you guys have some figures, some research about the odds of being emotionally attached or attracted to your alma mater. So can you talk about those for a second?
Yeah, we can. So the odds of being emotionally attached to alma mater are 8.7 times higher if the college prepared me well for a life outside of college. So again, bringing in those mentors really supports that. Higher if my professor at the college cared about me as a person. So, again, that's kind of going outside of the classroom to continue that connection with the student. 4.1 times higher if I had a mentor who encouraged me to pursue my goals and dreams. So again, that mentorship is a really important component. And there's a whole bunch of them. We can certainly, Jonaed, I don't know if you have that image available, but we can try and put that in the chat so that we've got them all. But there are really a lot of advantages, and they're multipliers. So when you're talking about a multiplier, you're talking about exponential opportunity by instigating a program like that. When we're talking about 8 times more likely, that's a really high impact for people to be able to capture some additional advantages, value add programs from the school.
And the other thing is, these are not hard to do.
They're not.
Right? Like mentors, most people are not like, hey, I don't want to mentor. You have to incentivize me to mentor. They're like, hey, just make it easy for me to mentor it, make it show me how to do it, and I'm more than willing to do it. Right.
Mhm.
So you see, like, you have the 4.1 times higher if I had a mentor who encouraged me to pursue my dreams, and then higher if you got an internship. If you have a mentor, you're more likely to get an internship, right? And those things work hand in hand. So all these things really feed on each other, and it's an opportunity for higher education, especially as a lot of people are really questioning. I think enrollment went down in the last year, and it's kind of trending that way. And there's more competition, right? People are looking. Some people are more connected with their boot camps or these outside things where they get more engaged communities. So the school really has to do it because they have these massive resources. But just like you said, the social construct is where they're failing, especially digitally.
Well, just as a real quick, just as a personal point, I had an army of mentors growing up. That was always something that I found as being a really important component to my own personal success. And it was something that the school hadn't necessarily arranged. I went out and found these mentors, and they weren't all through the schools, but it made a huge impact for me. It gave me ideas that I'd never had, or it gave me foundation that maybe didn't come through the education. So there was a huge impact just from having the mentors and having the ability, like, you leave a job and you can call this person up and say, what do I do next? When you're emotional and you're trying to deal with something, having that mentor network really makes a big difference in being able to move quickly, make decisions that are more informed. It's basically a mastermind group that you're able to lean on at any given time.
Yeah, and then certain key people, alumni of schools,
Mhm.
they're the biggest contributors. Like you have Michael Bloomberg, he donates hundreds of millions of dollars to John Hopkins, and then there's someone I believe is Charles Wang in Stony Brook, where the guy became a billionaire, and he was like Stony Brook was the only place that had the sense of community, and they
Mhm.
hired me. So you end up again, the success of the students leads to attracting more students in the future, and it leads to just overall a lot more money in the future, which
Mhm.
allows for more of these programs.
Mhm. But one thing that I want to point out with these statistics is, the odds of being emotionally attached to the alma mater. Not a single one has responded by saying, if I had a certain class, if I
Mhm.
had a certain textbook, if I had 27 more lecture hours in this, each and every one of these things is tied to some social aspect.
Mhm.
Even my professors cared about me as a person. You can't necessarily get that out of a 400-person lecture, but you can get that out of office hours.
Of
You
course.
build those connections out of that personal one-on-one engagement. You build that out of like really connecting with one or more of those professors, because there are certain professors that I have, and I am many years outside of college right now, who I still to this day consider a mentor. I still to this day will ask for advice, because it was just that foundation was laid back then. Again, if we look at, I was extremely active in extracurricular activities and organizations. That's social.
Mhm.
And if you have a non traditional campus, you don't necessarily have the same traditional type of extracurricular activities. But this is a key point where people are saying, this is where my connection back to my school comes from.
Mhm.
If I worked a project that took a semester or more to complete, the majority of things that you're doing in a project, you are collaborating with other individuals. So it's building all of these social skills. So that's just one interesting thing that I wanted to point out based on, some of these figures that you guys had found. But that also again transitions into the next portion. So once you feel that connection, you have that community built, that's when you have the alumni who at various different life cycles want to give back, and they want to give back in different ways. So what are you guys seeing when it comes to alumni giving and some of the best practices to help those alumni maybe be convinced to be more engaged?
Yeah, so I'll kind of say so there's a stat that 70% of organizations say their top goal is to increase alumni engagement, but only 27% of those admit that they have no dedicated strategy to boost engagement. So it's like it's one of those things like you have to have a strategy. You can't just say, "Hey, I want this to happen," and then do absolutely nothing about it. So
Mhm.
we've seen a lot of schools, it's there for the taking. You have these alumni, you can sort of build this community, but they don't have a strategy.
Mhm.
So that's something that we kind of want to do. And then the other thing is they say 93% of alumni organizations, they don't offer their alumni any benefits. And as a result, the alumni are like, why am I joining this? And here's the thing, you if you have some sort of community, if you have some sort of networking opportunities, that is a huge benefit. Like that's why people, pay, to go to school. They're like, hey, it's a network. It's being able to connect. It's, meeting business partners, meeting, potential hires, doing all these things. So that's just an opportunity sort of ripe for the taking.
And what do you think some of those like good benefits would be? I mean, like, do they want the PBS tote bag that you get for the donor, or like what are some of the benefits that you think that they're talking about when they say I don't see any benefits?
I think it's really just having access to the community, like having access to other people. Because again, it's like sometimes people say the discounts and all that, but it's like oh, that attracts a certain type of crowd. But it's really like, hey, are there exclusive opportunities? Like, are there networking events? Are there job fairs? Are there speakers? Even getting alumni, hey, we have this famous alumni who agreed to speak on this XYZ topic. People are more likely to come. So it's like all these things, these are benefits. These are reasons that people would kind of come back. And then now they're like, hey, at the end of one of these presentations, you could say, hey, this is funded by XYZ. or this funds, you're giving goes to funding laptops for the science lab, or all these things. So that's kind of where I would say that organizations can really hone in, because their benefit is that they share the common purpose, they share a common goal to really educate the community.
Yeah, and I think there's only so many buildings that can be named after
Yeah.
certain individuals. So I don't think we're talking like that high level of a benefit. But I agree, Chris. Do you feel about any type of other intrinsic benefits or?
Well, I think touching on what Jonaed was talking about is that the resources, high value, low cost resources, things that are kind of intrinsic but not necessarily tangible, to me have higher impact from for the alumni. A lot of these people make, especially again the alumni and the mentors that you want to be targeting, the givers that you want to be targeting, are already successful. They don't need a whole lot of physical incentive. They don't need a whole lot of knickknacks and discounts and things like that. What they do need is resources. They need the ability to connect with people. They need the ability to reach out and get something that they need on short notice. And so when things become more efficient, when they have a resource network that they can tap into, that's a hugely beneficial thing for them to be involved in. And they may be able to pick up business. They may be able to pick up, like Jonaed was saying, speakers, business partners, advisors, etc., that they can get out of these alumni networks. If you don't have a social component, a resource network built into your alumni programs, you're not going to be able to offer that to your alumni program. So I think that that's a really important component. The nice thing about virtual is, again, you don't have to come to a networking mixer to be able to uh, benefit from that program, and so you can have a larger outside network that is funneling into the school.
And so in the research you guys did, you found that 68% of organizations have seen alumni opt-out rates, meaning alumni requesting do not contact me, increase or not improve, which is a 13% rise since 2017. Only 5% of institutions report seeing a decrease in opt-out rates. So, you know, 95% of the institutions out there are trying to figure out what to do. So what are some tips that you guys think would help improve those opt-out rate numbers to have the alumni kind of change their mind?
I can
Yeah.
talk on that because that's kind of a more of a marketing question. But I mean, I think that people are so bombarded with communication as a whole. Yes, it's important to be in touch and be in front of your audience. We'll use audience for this, but generally the problem is that everybody is doing that. So you have to find a way to break that mold and make it interesting. The problem with a lot of organizations is they really focus on email. They think it's a very direct form of communication. The issue with that is that I know that if it's not something that's a personalized message to me, I'm not reading it. It doesn't matter what it is. I'm just not even going to look at it. I don't have time to look at it. But if you make it an active activity, you make it something, hey, we are inviting you to this event. We're making some time for you to meet with some other people that have high value impact for you. That is a much different opportunity for somebody who's got limited amounts of time. Everybody wants a piece of their time. That's a lot more attractive for them, rather than focusing on social and email and some of the really generic forms of communication.
Yeah, and I have to agree with that because whenever I first graduated, I think it's also coming into understanding the life cycle of the alumni and where they are in their degree. Because when I graduated with a whole heaping amount of debt and student
Yeah.
loans, and the only communication I was getting from my school was, "Hey, you spent 4 years here and just got all those loans. How about you give us like even more money because we want your money because now that you're alumni, we want your money. We want to
Right.
keep track of you and we want your money. So can we have track of you and keep your money because we want some more money?" Like
It's
those were
very in your
like the
face.
messages that I was just like boom, boom, just bombarded with of like, "Hey, the good thing to do would be to turn it around to give it back." I'm like, y'all, I am making like no money, but I'm at
I'm
least
eating
working in the
ramen while I'm
field that I
eating this email.
Yeah.
It's not going to
like,
do me any good to give you extra 2 cents.
so what do you guys think would be a better tactic, or like speaking from a marketing wise,
Mhm.
to be able to, because I think that might be where a lot of the opt-out rates come from as well, is not understanding where the life cycle is of their alumni.
You hit the nail on the head with the understanding the life cycle. I mean, a lot of communications, the reason they fail is because they're insensitive to the position or the mindset of the audience. And so without some sort of mechanism, for instance, maybe an event where you can have those conversations and get that real live feedback from somebody, you can't adjust that messaging. And so you have to build in ways that you can collect information from people and feedback and then adjust accordingly.
Yeah. So, for example, instead of sending those emails, say, hey, we got an alumni to speak who's the VP at this person to talk about career development or to talk about finances or to talk about the economy. We're using, give a screenshot. We're using this engaging platform that you can kind of, speak to the speaker afterwards and you can connect with other alumni. Now, the thing is, I have incentives like, okay, cool. I can meet some people. And then at the event, you can put like a sponsor banner with a link like, hey, thank you so much. This event was funded by the Alumni Association. We want to host more of these events. Our goal is to target, one of these every month. Please support the organization. Now I'm more likely to donate because now it's like, hey, I can see where the money's going to. I can see how it's going to help me and the organization. So it's like a win-win. If I give, I get more of these. I benefit because it'll help my career, it'll help my business, or I'll be able to sort of do more and I'll actually be able to see where my money goes towards, right? Because I get those letters, right? You get a letter and it's like check a box and it's like 5 check boxes and they'll put some things and it'll be a nice letter, but people are visual, right? They kind of now I've experienced what I'm helping. I'd love to contribute more. And that's how you get a little more, right? That's how you have to sort of also, in addition, you have to make it easy to donate because then you have to you have to fill out your credit card information. That's like a cybersecurity issue, right? So whereas if you had something on, and Remo allows that where you have a sponsor banner like click here to donate, we've done events where they've raised over $500,000, right? We've done even small events where they've raised $50,000 and it's like, hey, click this link, boom, right then and there you can easily donate. And I think you have to sort of make it easy because it's so convoluted. Like, I don't even know how to donate unless I got that email or I got that letter. And it's like
The email I'm not reading, right?
So yeah. And email, it's like it's just clogged up. And especially you have to think about these high-level executives, their email inboxes are clogged, right? Like it's like I have like 500 emails that I gotta go, and majority of them I'm gonna delete. But if I see, hey, X alumni is speaking, I'm just so much more likely to open.
Yeah. And I think that's a good transition into the final portion of our talk is you're like, why go virtual? I mean, there's a million different reasons why to go virtual. And we gave a few, but what are some of the tools that an alumni organization can utilize? What are some of the types of events that you've found that are successful in combating that hard push of like, just give us money, like please, we just want money, like we want your money, like, oh yeah, and we want your time because you're in this, we have all these graduates who are like about to graduate and they need some internships, so we would love to have your time, but can we have your time and your money? So what are some of the things that and again, this is, I'm not saying that this is what alumni are doing, but as somebody receiving a lot of these emails, sometimes it comes off as a really hard sell. So how can some of these events be leveraged, or what types of events can be leveraged to get the results, to build the community, to have engaged mentors, to have that connection back to your organization or your association or your university or department, and still slip in some of that fundraising capability?
Yeah, so I'll kind of talk on this. So again, what my high school used. So start small because the issue with a lot of like physical events, it's hard to do small events, right? Because you're putting resources, you're putting time, you're renting space. So it doesn't make sense to rent a whole classroom or a whole center for like 2 people. So with digital events, start small. We always tell people start with the small event. Get like, hey, we have 10 mentors and 10 students, or 10 mentors and 20 students, and that's not too hard to do. Connect with those 10 mentors and then use that as a test event. Get that feedback. Now what happens is those 10 mentors typically like it. You'll have Now you have a base of 10 mentors. Now the next one you'll target 15 mentors. But start with the mentorship aspect. Another thing is just having these networking events where these alumni can come together. And we found speaking like getting a high level speaker who went to the school is a great way. And now so many already high level speakers have great virtual setups, and you could say, hey, we just need you for 20 minutes or a panel. Make it easy for them. Don't I suggest like an interview format, because with the interview format you can say, hey, here are the questions we want to ask, is this okay, as opposed to like a 20-minute presentation where they kind of have to like create slides and all that. So make it easy for them to present, and then what happens is the alumni are likely to attend because they see, hey, this is my industry. I can see. And so you can do on topic, like what my high school did was they did like a medical alumni networking night. And what happened organically was that the older people were kind of talking about like, hey, if I were going back into my medical career, I would have done XYZ. And then there were other students. He's like, hey, this is what really helped me, or hey, this is what you need to do, or hey, you didn't get into medical school, take a year break, and this is what you need to do within that year. Then we had another one. It was like finance alumni, and it was all people who worked in finance, and the topic was a financial presentation. And then we had a technology alumni night. And again, what ends up happening is you're gonna get organic mentorship and organic networking, because they'll be like, hey, what's the school up to? Be like, hey, it's been a crazy year. We switched digitally, but we're kind of doing this. And like, wow, this is pretty cool. I'm really looking forward to the next one. And they're really excited. Like, hey, they're always like, hey, when's the next one? When's the next one? Because people are social creatures, and they crave these types of things, right? And people are generally, they like living a life of purpose, and what's more purposeful than helping the people that you sort of have a common bond with.
Mhm. Christy, have you seen any other type of events that you would recommend starting off with, or if you feel that you're pretty well established where you can like take your program to the next level?
As far as the mentors and alumni giving and everything that we've talked about, I think that a lot of it has to do with getting people in a room together so that they can have a conversation. And giving them the space and the time to do that is as valuable as having the presentations that provide value. So, it's a two-pronged approach. You definitely need to have some kind of staple that draws everybody in, gives them a common conversation, which would be like a presentation, a fireside chat, some kind of a panel discussion, and then allow them to go off and discuss it. And really, where you're going to get that anchor engagement from your alumni has to do with that conversation that takes place after the presentation. We all sit through a lot of presentations, but at the end of the day, it's the conversations that you remember, and you link that to the presentation. So I think that, coming back to what Jonaed was saying, is making sure that you have a space and time to do that. You can do things like class reunions. We've done a couple of those. We've done, and you can do them more frequently so people can keep tabs on each other, rather than the every 5 years or 10 years that, normally would take to be in person. So, you could do one every 6 months. In addition to that, I would also say that the mentor circles are always nice. That gives an opportunity for both the students and the alumni to benefit. And then obviously, giving them a resource, and maybe do a theme night, like Jonaed said, doing a medical situation where all these people who ended up in the medical field can come swap war stories and say, hey, this is talk shop a little bit, and give them a place to do that. And then around that same time, you can ask them to come back and be a mentor for the students. And so it's trying to figure out, going back to what Jonaed was saying about not having a strategy. And that's one of the reasons that a lot of these schools struggle. If you figure out 3 or 4 different things, maybe more, that kind of all work together in driving forward, rather than just one big thing in a year, you're going to be a lot more successful, because each one is supporting the other and multiplying the other. And now you've got, like Jonaed said, you may get a base of 10 people at one, you may get a base of 5 people at another. Now you have 15, and then they tell their friends, and they'll all start coming in. So it's a big question of, getting people in the same room together, giving them a space and the time to do that.
And the other thing is that you can kind of anticipate, like if you say, hey, you got 50 registrations or you got 10 registrations, you can kind of say, now you can focus more on those 10 registrations. And the beauty of like a digital space is like, as long like on a remote, as long as you get like 5 people, that's it, right? It doesn't matter that the other tables are empty or all that, because what we find is most people tend to stick at that table, they get a good conversation going, and they'll stay there for 20, 30, 40 minutes, right? So you can sort of get that. But then if you get the other side where you're getting 500 registrations, now you're like, oh wow, this is a big event, we can dedicate more resources. Whereas I know if you want to reserve a certain center, you have to do an X number of events, you have to do cost center wise, you have to do all these things. And then there's like the food, you can only use catered food from the university
Mhm.
and all that. Whereas like these online events, it's like you can say, hey, if you show up, you'll get a $10 Starbucks gift card, right? And it's like nothing's lost. It's not like you have to use a budget, and if people don't eat the food, it's sort of wasted, and you're like, it's all this planning. So logistically, you have so much more flexibility, and you can anticipate and react, pivot at the last minute. Like, hey, we're gonna need more help, and because we got 500 registrations, you can scale that up, right? Whereas if you have the other way, where you rent this big center and you only get like 20 people come, it's just like all the stuff has just gone to
It
waste, right?
hurts that
The
much more.
security, it hurts so
Yeah.
much more.
Yeah. And a couple of the things that I've seen be successful are, engage your faculty. Have your faculty in on some of these sessions as well, because there are a lot of times where the alumni want to come back because they want to tell a certain faculty member just the impact that they had on their life, like even 10, 15, 20 years down the road. I mean,
Yeah.
even if they're like in emeritus status, or if it's like at their retirement, like celebrating those things virtually as well, and having a reception that the alumni can come to where they can have that similar connection. Like, as I said in the beginning, I'm still connected with some of my mentors from college, and it's been those are years that I'm coming up on my reunions. So that's one thing that I saw. The other thing is, like, also, Chris, you were talking about thematic.
Mhm.
Look at some of these big thematic things that are huge. Homecoming, it's in the title, alumni come home. It is all about the alumni, but without leveraging a virtual component to that, you're missing 85% of your alumni who can't come back to the school. So you have these virtual check-ins. You have like somebody watching the big game live, and like almost having like these live interactions, like you guys are all sitting at the
Yeah.
table watching it together,
Ribbon
cheering.
people with your elbow, right? Lean
Yeah,
over and say, "Hey,
exactly.
did you see that touchdown?" I mean, that's a nice component. That's the connection that I think is lost in a lot of other virtual engagements. If you don't have that ability to reach over and say, "Hey, did you see that?"
Yeah.
You're missing an opportunity, and most other platforms don't really do a very good job at that. Whereas Remo does a very good job at that. It's almost one of the only platforms that I've seen that does.
A couple of the other ideas that we've heard of are, at the end of the semester, you have these award ceremonies, and the donors want to meet the recipients of the awards. So again, you build that, like they want to put a face, like I helped this specific student, or I helped these groups of students with my benefactory award, and the student can say thank you. You have this big student, or graduation. So there's a lot of thematic times that you can look at your academic schedule and say, okay, this is geared towards alumni, this is geared towards alumni, this is geared towards alumni. Let's have a virtual component to this um, activity or this event, and turn it into like maybe a week-long celebration, or a couple hours virtual, a couple hours in person, so that you can connect the people, and especially if they're international students, especially because the international students sometimes feel like, hi, we're here. And some universities have really, really strong international associations. We're going to talk this coming Thursday to the University of Buffalo, where they have an extremely strong program. One of the things that they did is they took their international MBA class and partnered them with international graduates who are now very high up in Volkswagen China, and their MBA projects now have a footprint there, and those international students feel so much more connected back in. And there's just a bevy and a wealth of, this is what I took from the university, and this is how I'm applying it now that I'm back home. So there's a whole other, logistical barrier to tear down, but you don't have to
Yeah.
pay speakers
And
fee, flight, per diem, hotel, et cetera, to bring them back here.
And another thing to consider is that there are more and more online classes. Like
Yes.
universities are having more of those. So you need to have a bigger digital footprint, or else you're just losing out on that sense of community. Because I've seen a lot of online students, they're like, hey, I go in, I go out. I don't even really know my classmate. I know the annoying person that's always up in the chat, and that's really it. Whereas like now you want to have a system to sort of engage these students who are going to be online. And a lot of professors are online too, right? They're like nowhere near the university. So it's like, how do you talk to that professor outside the classroom setting?
How do you have office hours that are meaningful, like over the phone or over Zoom, or like, it's just,
Yeah.
there's something lacking there with that kind of personal touch. So at this point, I'm going to open it up for questions to see if anybody has questions for Chris, Jonaed, or myself about some like how-tos, or how do I do this? How would I go about this? If there's any comments that you guys have or things that you have seen that you've implemented that have worked, please hit the raise hand feature, which is right down at the bottom. And we will be happy to bring you up on stage to say hi and either hear your question. Does anybody have any questions about anything that we talked about today?
Yeah, and we'll stick around for a few minutes after if you want to ask anything one-on-one.
And that's exactly, we're going to talk and we're going to demonstrate what we've been preaching of having that after connection. So this is what we always do, is when we build our agenda, we will build in 10, 15 minutes where we can go down to the tables and network and have those one-to-ones, because sometimes people are hesitant or shy. They don't want to raise their hand and ask the questions when they come up on stage. So with that, I would love to thank you guys for joining us again, Chris, Jonaed. If anyone wants to get in touch with you, what is the best way to get a hold of you guys?
Probably the best way is through our website. It's just acevirtualevents.com. And we've also got a LinkedIn presence that's very active and monitored. And so if you message us there, we'll be able to respond there as well.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you guys joining us. For those of you who are here, we have another event coming up on Thursday, September 30th, and we will be recording this for afterwards, where we will be talking with the Alumni Association, International Alumni Association from the University of Buffalo, and a Young Alumni Association representative from University of Massachusetts Amherst, where we'll be talking a little bit about their best practices from the other side, not from the marketer or from the event planner standpoint, but from the actual alumni associations who have come up with a lot of really, really good solutions about how they're breaking down some of these barriers and really increasing their alumni engagement. So that'll be at 8 a.m. Pacific on September 30th. If you want more information about that, please let me know. And I thank you guys. We're going to go back down to the tables into conversation mode. Thank you guys for joining us today. If you're watching this on the replay, message me inside the community. My name is Katrina, and it's super easy to find me there. All right. Thanks, guys.